My father was the kind of man every village prayed for. At least, that's what everyone believed. If someone was hungry, he fed them. If a roof collapsed, he rebuilt it. If two men were ready to fight, somehow, my father always brought them peace. People didn't just respect him, they admired him. Some even said our village had never seen a man as good as Obiora. I believed them. After all, I was his son. But there was one thing about my father that never made sense. Every evening, just before sunset, he picked up the same old wooden staff and disappeared into the forest, alone. Nobody knew where he went. Nobody asked. It had become part of his daily routine. One day, I finally asked him, "Father, where do you go every evening?" He smiled, placed his hand on my shoulder, and simply said, "Some paths are meant for one pair of footsteps." Then he walked away. I never asked him again. Years passed. Nothing changed. Until one evening, he woke before the sun, just like every other day. He helped a blind old man cross the river, shared his meal with a hungry child, smiled at everyone in the marketplace. Then, just before sunset, he picked up his staff and walked into the forest. That was the last time anyone saw him alive. The next morning, his walking staff was found lying at the edge of the forest. The whole village searched for him. Hours later, they found his body beneath an ancient Iroko tree. There were no wounds, no signs of a struggle, only silence. The entire village mourned the man they believed was their greatest hero. I thought that was the end of my father's story. But after the burial, the village chief stopped me. He looked around to make sure no one was watching, then handed me a small wooden box. "Your father said this belongs to you." That night, I opened it. Inside, there was only one letter. I unfolded it with trembling hands. The first sentence made my heart stop. "If you are reading this, I have deceived everyone." I couldn't believe what I was reading. The man my village called a saint had just confessed to deceiving everyone. I kept reading. Everything they believed about me was exactly what I wanted them to believe. My heart sank. Every roof he repaired, every hungry child he fed, every family he helped, none of it was random. He wrote that every act of kindness earns something far more valuable. Trust. A man who earns everyone's trust never has to steal it. People give it to him willingly. I threw the letter aside. No, this couldn't be my father. Someone had to be lying. Then something slipped from the letter. It wasn't another page. It was a map. As I opened it, I noticed a strange symbol carved into the center. Then I looked at my father's walking staff. The same symbol. My hands began to shake. The map led to the very forest my father disappeared into every evening. His final instruction was simple. If you truly wish to know me, follow the path I walked every sunset. Before sunrise, I picked up his staff, folded the map, and walked toward the forest. I thought I was finally about to uncover my father's secret. I had no idea someone was already waiting for me. Before the sun had fully risen, I followed the map into the forest. Every step felt heavier than the last. The deeper I went, the quieter the forest became. Then I noticed something strange. Fresh footprints. Someone had walked this path before me, and somehow, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. As I pressed on, I began seeing the same symbol carved into ancient Iroko trees. The exact symbol carved into my father's staff. It wasn't leading me by chance. It was guiding me somewhere. Then, I found it. Hidden behind thick vines, a narrow path no ordinary villager would ever notice. I pushed the vines aside and stepped through. What lay beyond stopped me in my tracks. A sacred grove, completely hidden from the rest of the village. At its center stood an old hut. It looked as though it had been waiting for me. I walked inside. Everything had been carefully preserved. Old maps, carved wooden tablets, bundles wrapped in raffia, records that had survived generations. None of this made any sense. Then my eyes settled on a large carved wooden board. Names. Dozens of them. I slowly traced each one with my fingers until I stopped at one. Maduka. I had never heard that name before. Why did it feel so important? Then, you finally found your father. I turned toward the doorway. An elderly woman dressed completely in white stood there, watching me. Before I could say a single word, everything changed. The old woman looked into my eyes, then pointed at the name carved into the board. Maduka. That was your father. I shook my head. No, my father was Obiora. She sighed. No, Obiora was the man who raised you. The words didn't make sense. Everything I believed about my life began to crumble. Then she told me the story no one else knew. Many years ago, Obiora came to this village as a young outsider. Not as a hero, but on the day everything changed. Panic spread through the village. Families fled into the forest. Homes were left in ruins. And in the middle of the chaos, one man refused to run. His name was Maduka. He stayed behind so others could escape. He never made it home. When the village finally grew quiet, Obiora found a crying baby, hidden beneath the remains of a fallen hut. It was me. He knew exactly whose son I was. He could have walked away. Instead, he carried me from that place, raised me as his own, and spent the rest of his life trying to become a better man than the one he had once been. Then I finally understood the letter. I have deceived everyone. He never lied about his kindness. He lied about who he really was. The old woman reached into a woven basket and handed me another letter. Obiora said, "When you are ready for the truth, give him this." I stared at the seal in my hands. Some secrets change your life. I was about to open one. I stood alone inside the hut, staring at the final letter. For a moment, I wondered if some secrets were better left unread, but I broke the seal anyway. Obiora confessed everything. He never asked me to forgive him. He only admitted that not a single day had passed without remembering Maduka. Every life he helped reminded him of the one he had taken from me. Every good deed was a burden he chose to carry. Then I reached his final words. "Do not let my sin become yours. Live a life that neither Maduka nor I were able to live." I folded the letter. For the first time, I saw Obiora for who he truly was. Not a saint, not a monster, just a man who spent the rest of his life trying to make peace with a past he could never change. The next morning, the village chief sent for me. He looked into my eyes and asked, "Tell me, Chike, who was Obiora, really?" I reached into my wrapper, took out the letter, read its final lines one last time, then folded it again. I kept the truth, looked at the chief, and quietly said, "Some truths heal. Others only leave new wounds. The man you knew died with honor. Let him rest." The chief lowered his head. He never asked another question. And as I walked away, I realized sometimes the hardest thing a man can carry is not the truth. It's the decision of what to do with it.